What's up guys, Bearded Jeeper here, and today we're taking a deep look into my new welder, the Yes Welder 205DS. Let me show you a closer look. This is the Yes Welder 205DS. It's a multi-process welder. It does TIG, stick, and MIG, also flux core. So this really is a great little capable machine. Alright, but before we get too far into this, I just want to be honest and upfront with you guys. Yes Welder did send me this. It was an Amazon return. So they sent me this welder for free, but that's not going to affect my review. I don't know enough about welding yet. I'm still learning myself, and this is kind of a beginner's review. But as a beginner welder, I'm going to show you how this thing has been working to weld stuff on my Jeep and how it's been working for me so far. I'm not going to go over all the specs and everything on this, but I will post a link down in the description below if you want to check this out, and if you want to look into more of the spec sheet and it'll list all the specifications. I'm just going to go over what I see and what I like and what I've experienced with this welder. So first, I have to say I really like that it comes with this adapter plug, so you can do both 110 and 220. Comes with the 220 plug, but this little adapter brings it down to 110. So that's good for me right now. I don't have a dedicated outlet in the garage for 220, so I've been running this off 110 and it's been working just fine. I have to say I really like these controls. I'll turn it on in a minute so you can see what it looks like, but it does make a little bit of noise with the fan going on, so I wanted to be able to talk and tell you a little bit about it. But you just have one knob and you have your voltage and your amperage. And one kind of downfall about this welder is it doesn't have a wire speed setting, but you can take your amperage and like for 030 wire, you can just divide it by 2 and get your wire feed speed. So that works out. I kind of wish it had a separate knob, but it's not a game changer for me. This is still a great welder, and it does what I need it to do, and it welds. I have this hooked up to a bottle of C25 gas, so that way I don't have to worry about flux. I started off with this learning flux. It works great for flux, but I wanted a little bit cleaner welds, less chipping off all the slag and stuff. You got your line for your gas in right here, and then this is your where your power cord comes out, and this is your on and off switch, and you just run it up to your regulator here. It does come with a decent size or length cord for the MIG gun. Decent little MIG gun. They offer replacements if you want to upgrade it or whatever, but this is the one it comes with. Now, one thing I did have to replace is this ground clamp. This is one I got from Harbor Freight. This is a solid, a little bit heavier duty one compared to the one it came with. This is the clamp it came with, and if you could see it in there, some of those strands were breaking, and I just wasn't getting a good ground anymore. So I picked this up at Harbor Freight. I'll put a link in the description if you want to get one of these. They're real cheap, and it was easy to hook up, and it works really well. Haven't had any issues with it, and there's no cables in the middle there to fray or anything like this one. So this is, you got quite a bit of clamping force on this to get a nice ground there. Takes the big 10 or 11 pound rolls here. One thing I wish they would change here is this opening isn't quite big enough, so it makes getting these controls a little tough. Trying to feed the wire in here and the knobs and stuff, there's not a whole lot of hand room. If this was cut out just a little bit more, that would make that a little bit easier. Also, there's no chart or anything on the inside of the door. I printed out a chart with settings that work pretty well for this. Works very similar to a Miller machine as far as the voltage and amperage settings and everything. So that's what I've been using to kind of set my baseline and listening to the sounds of the weld as I learn how to weld. Let me turn this on and show you some of the features when it's on and how loud it is when it's going and everything, so you guys can get an idea. I'm still learning. I'm not a professional welder, but this welder's working okay for me so far. Okay, let's get this thing started up and you can hear how loud it is, and we'll go ahead and show you some of the features. Okay, so it boots right up. This is your knob to adjust everything. And say you want your voltage to be a little bit less, what you can actually, and keeping your amperage or wire speed the same, you can actually hold down this, or click this button a couple times and cycle it through, and see it's on +2 now. You can go to -1, 0, all the way to like, yeah, -10 to +10, and that just kind of boosts it up a little bit. So let's set it to 0, and you can see that puts us at 18.1 volts. But if we go back to that and let's put it at 4, that bumps us up to 19.7. So you can play around with that to kind of fine-tune your settings. It's kind of a pain getting it to set up right, but once you get the hang of it, it's not that bad. Enough of me talking about this. Let me show you a few welds. Got this big old hunk of steel just to run some beads down so you can see the welder functioning. I'm gonna turn her right up. So I'm not the greatest at welding yet, but I don't think those beads turned out too terrible. Started off kind of a little cold, and then I got moving a little slower, especially with this thick plate. You really have to let it sit, and only running off 110 power. I really need 220 because that would have burned this in a little bit hotter. I still could use a little hotter. It's kind of sitting on top still. But this is a real thick steel. I don't think I'm going to be welding anything this thick onto the Jeep. This is 3/4 of an inch thick. I'll only be using like 1/4 inch, so it's like 3 times the thickness that I'll be welding, and it still puts a weld down. Alright, so I grabbed this bolt. I didn't even clean it up, but I'm going to try to weld it to this plate to show a little bit more welding. So not perfect welds, but I'm getting better. I just did this bead here. I think that turned out pretty good. Slowly getting better at this. Alright guys, I am still a beginner welder, so this is just my review on how this has worked for me personally as a beginner welder. I think this is a great unit for anyone wanting to get into welding. It's not your kind of bottom line crappy welder, but this is still a decent welder, especially for the price point. It has some good features, multi-process. You can learn whatever you want to, if you want to start off with TIG or if you want to start off with stick, or MIG or flux or whatever you can. Flux is a good way to start because you don't have the added cost of your argon CO2 mix bottle. That can get pricey, but it's just a great overall welder. And if you want to save 10%, don't forget to use the code TheBeardedJeeper and you get 10% off, so that helps you out even more. But if you have any questions on this welder, just hit me up in the comments below, shoot me an email. However, get a hold of me, I'll answer you right back, and hopefully we can get you into welding. It's a whole lot of fun, and I really love the process of learning to weld and building something with your hands. You gotta start somewhere. Your welds aren't gonna be perfect from the start. This is somewhere to start. It's a great little welder to get you started. As always guys, stay bearded, stay jeepin'. I'm out.